afternoon. It's 2 o'clock and I'd like to welcome everyone to the Somerset North Planning Committee. My name is Councillor Cathy Pearce, I'm Chair of the committee, and to my right is Councillor Matt Martin, who is Vice Chair. But first, do some of the housekeeping things. So, first of all, fire drill. We're not expecting a drill, so if the alarm goes off, it's the real thing. And I'd like you all to head down to the double doors there on your left, our right, and head to King Square outside. There are toilets in the main reception should you need them, and there's also water available on the table on your left over there. Please help yourself if you need to. So this meeting is a hybrid meeting, and that means that committee members are present in Bridgewater House, and the meeting is also available online via Teams. Please note that the meeting is being recorded, and can I remind all of those in the room to turn your mobile phones off or to silent. And can those joining us online please turn off your cameras and microphones so that the meeting is not disturbed. I'll now introduce the committee today. To my left are our legal and democratic officers, and to my right are the planning officers who will present the applications. On the wings of the table are the councillors who will debate and decide the applications. The format will be as per the published agenda, and a copy of the officer reports can be found on the council website. Each application will be taken in turn. Officers will outline each application, followed by public speaking time. Only members of the public who have registered to speak can make representation, and councillors around the table will then debate and decide on each application. During the debate, there will be a proposer and a seconder for a resolution. Members will vote on the proposal. Only members who have been present throughout the application in the room will be able to vote. And the voting options are for, against, abstain or defer. Votes will be counted and the results announced. Okay, so that takes us to the main agenda. I'd like to ask, are there any apologies for absence, please?
Yes, Chair. We have Councillor Brian Smedley, who has not appointed a substitute. We have Councillor Tony Grimes, who has asked Councillor Diego Rodriguez to substitute for him, and Councillor Ben Ferguson is attending online today.
Okay, thank you. Minutes from the previous meeting. Are they agreed as a correct record? Can I have a proposer? So that's Councillor Slocum, second Councillor Martin, seconded, and all those who were present at the meeting, please thank you. Let's go on to public question time. We have members of the public who have registered to speak, but I'll call you when each application comes up in turn. Sorry, I skipped one. Declarations of interest. Sorry. I'd like to ask our legal advisor, Nick, just to run through declarations of interest, why we ask for them, and to ask for any members who have a declaration of interest to declare to let us know. Thank you.
Afternoon, everybody. Yes, in the usual way, we ask members to inform the committee if they have any disclosable peculiar interest or personal interest that, in the view of members of the public out there, might affect their decision making in the applications today. So we'll have the training on this, so if you could let us know at the beginning what, if any, what interest event you have, we'll move on from there.
Yeah, if I can declare an interest on agenda item 7, which is the Oak Tree from Arena, the coffee shop application. I've registered to speak on that today, so I'm already predetermined. So
thank you. Councillor Bruce.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, other registrable interest for agenda item 5 on the Carrick Drainage Board, but I haven't taken part in any discussions. Thank you.
Councillor Bradford and then Councillor Slocum.
Same as Councillor Bruce, Madam Chairman.
I'm a member of the Bridgewater Town Council, but I don't sit on planning, and I've not no association with planning on the Town Council. Thank you.
Councillor Hendry.
To the drainage board, Chairman, that I've taken up with any conversation with the application.
Councillor Fillingham.
Councillor Henry just reminded me, I'm on the Axborough
item 5 on page 21 of the agenda, and that's the planning application for land at Bristol Road, Holland. Sarah, would you like to take us through the application, please?
Thank you, Chair. The site consists of one field adjacent to the A38, as members that were on the site visit will remember. To the east of the village of Paulet, to the west lies a car sales garage and a number of residential properties. And to the south are residential properties at North Farm, and to the north and the east lie agricultural fields, and basically the A38 lies southwest. The proposal seeks full planning permission for the erection of a convenience store, which is a retail use of the class EA, and for 6 commercial units in use class E, ABC, B2 and B8 use classes. That's a larger plan of the site area. The built development is in the southern part of the site, with the northern part of the site retained for landscaping, ecology mitigation and drainage attenuation. Access is proposed from the A38, much widened from the existing with a bell mouth, with highway works including creation of a, if I go to the plan, creation of a ghost right turn in, a toucan signalised pedestrian and cycle crossing and a footpath and cycleway proposed from south of the site along the A38 junction with Old Main Road down here. Now, I need to say that the report that went to the committee, there was a mistake. I said that there was a restriction on right turns from the site. That's wrong. That's my mistake. There is no restriction on right turns egressing the site, coming out of the site. We do have a ghost lane in for highway reasons. The site is a greenfield one. If I go back. The site is a greenfield one adjacent to the settlement of Paulet, but it's outside the settlement boundary, and Paulet itself is classed as the Tier 3 settlement under policy S2. Although it lies close to the boundary, but it's outside, it is therefore within the open countryside. Policy D15 allows for small-scale units where there are appropriate to the scale and character of the community, and the proposal for 6 small commercial units are designed to provide small-scale employment opportunities. Individually, I go back to the site plan. Individually, none of the units are considered to be large-scale, and therefore, in the view of the policy team, are consistent with the objectives of policy D15. As the proposal has a retail element to it, policy D35 is relevant and is generally supportive of proposals which provide community facilities where there is an identified need, and there is no longer any convenience shop in Paulet, and there is a recent appeal decision up the road, but it's an outline and is speculative. So consider that the current proposed store, with the addition of a suitable crossing and improved pedestrian and cycle facilities, is well related to the village and would be accessible by walking and cycling. There are no landscape designations in the area. The site drops away slightly to the north. Development does not extend any further into the countryside than the adjacent residential properties and the rear gardens thereof to the northwest. And proposals therefore will not unduly extend into the open countryside, and the rear of the site is maintained as open with further landscaping, and existing hedgerows are proposed to be retained, and the extent of tree planting is proposed on site. But we've got tree planting on the northwest boundary, on the south boundary, and within the attenuation area to the north. The highway works are proposed proposed, including a signalised crossing and the cycle access, will be secured by the section 106 prior to first occupation of the development. So in terms of other issues, there are no highway issues outstanding that cannot be controlled by either section 106 or condition. The environmental health officer has raised no objections to the scenes, subject to recommended conditions controlling hours of opening and deliveries. And nearby residential properties are some considerable space away. The closest property is Elms Garage, which is not resi at the front. With regard to ecology, the HRA you've already voted on last week, back in August, so that's gone through. But the site includes the creation of attenuation pond, habitat management, including tree planting and new species-rich hedgerows. So in conclusion, the proposal is considered to be policy compliant and there are no issues that cannot be controlled by section 106 or conditions. And as such, the proposal is recommended for approval subject to 106 for the highway works. It's just one thing I need to point out, the applicant has come back to me and asked for some minor amendments to conditions 8 and 9. So I'm requesting that the development be phased instead of, so the condition 8 is prior to occupation, and they've requested that we do that on a phasing basis. So I could amend that to the individual buildings hereby approved shall not be occupied. The same with condition 9, the individual buildings hereby permitted must not be utilised. So enable the developers to do that in a phased way, but obviously that's up to your call whether you agree with that amendment or not. But the proposal is recommended for approval with the stated conditions under section 106. Thank you.
Thank you. We have two speakers on this item. I would like to call Andrew Warner, Vice Chair of the Parish Council of Parish Council to the table, please.
Can I ask a question just before about the amendment correction the planning office was saying about the right turn? No right. Is that absolutely certain? There is a right turn out of the site. The drawings seem to suggest that maybe there isn't.
There's a ghost lane in, but there's nothing restricting right turn out. So you basically drive over the ghost lane to come out.
You drive over those hatched lines.
Sorry, I'm going to have to stop here because we will have a debate about that
If
during
that is the case, then I have no objection to it. I'm just surprised it got this far with that sort of right turn.
Yeah. So you have 3 minutes. And just let us know when you're ready to start and we'll start the timer. Thank you.
As you said, I'm the Vice Chair of Warwick Parish Council. I'm also a retired planning consultant. As I said before, following a public session, there was no support for this scheme by villagers. Our objections to this major application: first, the wonderful view of the Nendipes and the village green to be lost, which underlines the fact that the site is open countryside. Secondly, the scheme of 1,200 square metres is clearly contrary to your policy D15. Permission should be granted in accordance with the development plan, which states that large-scale commercial developments over 1,000 square metres should be on brownfield sites in Bridgewater, Burton and Highbridge. This is a greenfield site outside the village envelope. In his original assessment, the policy officer mistakenly referred to gross internal floor space, saying 1,072 square metres was technically slightly above the threshold, and that individually the units are small and therefore the scheme is consistent with policy. The case officer's report corrects the fact that it should be gross external area, and that is 1,202 square metres. But then the report repeats the same wording and arguments used by the policy officer, which were in the context of the wrong size. The policy limit is 1,000 square metres. The scheme isn't slightly above that limit, it's 20% over. Nowhere does the policy allow you to look at the size of the individual units, small or otherwise. The policy refers to whole schemes. Dealing with traffic safety, coming out of Paulet, turning right towards Bridgewater, it's difficult currently to see through traffic coming from your left. This will be made dangerously worse because cars waiting to turn into the development from the south will hide these oncoming cars. Those vehicles leaving, both vans and whatever, leaving the site that want to come back into Paulet, this is meant to be a local facility, will essentially come out of the site, turn left, and then turn first right into Old Main Road. Now, if I'm having difficulty leaving Old Main Road to turn right, they're going to be stuck in front of me. And therefore, there is going to be a potential hazardous situation, which hopefully the committee were aware of when they did their site visit. For all these reasons, the Parish Council asked this application be refused. Thank you.
There was this amendment, but just be seconded.
I'm not going to revisit the detail of this application, which delivers a local commercial permits suitable for local businesses, as you will be familiar with the application and have had a site visit due to concerns in respect of highway safety. You may be aware that some local businesses have had to move to another village due to no availability of suitable accommodation. There is no local shop, so residents are obliged to use their cars for the most basic supplies. Your concerns regarding the busy A38 are valid. However, to ensure safe access across the A38, the applicant will deliver a comprehensive list of safety measures, and to demonstrate this, the technical detail normally not required until after planning permission has been granted has been submitted in Section 278, technical detail and approved by Somerset Railways. The safety measures include a signalised two-can crossing with CCTV in accordance with Section 278. The front of the site has a 1 to 1.5 metre stone wall and dense impregnable hedging to avoid the temptation for pedestrians to cross the road and not to use the two-can crossing. A 3 metre wide pedestrian and cycle path. A pedestrian entrance to the shop directly off the two-can crossing. New site access and road widening together with highway alterations providing good visibility and approved by Somerset Railways under Section 278 technical drawings. A comprehensive signage and lights indicating the two-can crossing. Improvements to the existing pavements and paths to provide shared access for pedestrians and cyclists. The design is sympathetic with a comprehensive, robust landscaping scheme designed to ensure that the site has minimum impact on the area. The buildings are designed with a selection of materials which reflect the rural location. An online survey was carried out in relation to the convenience store, and 80% of those who responded voted in support of the application. Board member Mark Healy has also supported the application, drawing attention to the success of the Woolabington Camp. I commend the scheme to members. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would you like to respond also for the highways issues, we have Kirsty from highways with us here today, who may like to pick up some of the issues raised.
Thank you, Chair. Just on the policy D15 point, and I did raise the issue of the gross internal versus gross external with Nick Tate, head of policy, and he said that the issue's basically the same. If I go back to show you the layout, we're looking at small units here, and at the start of my report I say how much each unit is. A lot of them are really small. We're talking 300 square metres, 500 square metres, 146 square metres, etc. So in and of themselves, there's individual units. They're not large scale proposals. And I think that's the point that the policy team have made, that because they are small units, and we're looking at a full application here, so they can't come in with one large unit, completely change the design and come in with one large unit over 1,000 gross square metres floor space, because this is a full application and that's the layout. So they have to adhere to this layout unless they come in with a different, decide to change the application. So we've got that level of control over it. So the way the policy have looked at it is because these individual units are small, they come under the policy as small scale employment uses under policy D15, which and the bottom end of policy D15 says small scale employment development meets the objectives of the policy will be supported within or well related to settlement boundaries, where it's appropriate to the scale and character of the community and provides local job opportunities. So it ticks all the boxes from the policy perspective because it is well related to the village with the cropping in there before the first occupation of the retail, the shop itself, the co-op. So I would be very worried about a refusal reason based on policy because I don't think we'd have a leg to stand on. So I understand where Parish Council are coming from, but I think reading policy and the advice from the policy team is that small scale units in and of themselves are acceptable. And we've got the control because this is a full planning application. So to any change, they have to come in and put another application in. So I don't know whether you want to say anything on traffic.
So yeah, the Parish Council raised a number of points. So it's been through the safety audit, so the council's got auditors who are trained safety auditors who've looked at it. I think it's had a total of 5 times it's been through the audit. There's a number of changes along the way. In terms of pulling out from Old Main Road, visibility to the left will actually be improved because part of the work, some of the hedgerow will be taken out to allow the formation of the cycleway footway. So that will actually allow an improvement.
Okay. Any other responses before we go to members for debate? As I said, this was an application deferred from the previous committee and there has been a site visit since. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. I wonder if I could just ask my colleague to the right to expand on this idea of the vegetation being taken off from the east side. Could you explain how that's going to happen and the extent of it, please?
Yeah, so our records show the highway boundary extending up to the fence line, properties at back onto the A38. So there's quite extensive vegetation which has grown up over the years, brush sort of vegetation. There's also a ditch that runs along there as well, which will need to be culverted. So all that will allow, so the footway cycleway will have to be 3.5 metres in total, so 3 metres, and then you have a half a metre buffer. So that 3 metres will allow improved visibility. So it's got 110 metre visibility there, which meets all the relevant standards.
Can I No, I'm sorry, we can't take any questions from the floor. No, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was just for clarity on that, because I noticed when we did the site tour across the road, which is the area you're talking about, isn't it, on clearance and culverting. Can you just explain how far using that map, how far the clearance will be? Because if people are encouraged, I know there's the cycle route from the south side, the south side village entrance, but people will be encouraged to come from the north access onto the A38. And all along there, it was very overgrown, wasn't it? And only half of the pavement was accessible. So how far are you considering in the clearance? Is it the whole length from one entrance to the other, or partial way?
So the clearance under the proposals, under the 106 as it stands anyway, is to the crossing point. So that would be as part of this development. There is another issue, as we saw on site, that there has been perhaps a lack of maintenance over the years, or detritus. It's a busy road, so you get a lot of stuff chucked up from the road, which is formed, and yeah, there could the footpath along there to the north up to Manor Road should be 1.8, I think is what it looked like it would be. So yeah, there could be improvements there. Whether it's done as part of this development, that hasn't been looked at so far, but yeah, it's a possibility that either the development or the council could improve that.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to add up to what Jodie said from the observations that were made on site, it's important for the committee to note that the works under the proposed Section 106 agreement, which are shown on the drawing there, they have to be justified to deal with the impacts of this development in scale and kind. And we strongly feel that the work shown on the drawing are at that limit, really. So the widening that you can see in blue on the south side of the A38 there are absolutely necessary to make the development acceptable. So that would stick in the Section 106 agreement, and the trigger in the Section 106 agreement would say that the food stall could not open until those works have been implemented. So that's the strong control that you would have. However, so the footpath does continue further to the northwest. However, that, as Jodie has said, that's more a maintenance issue, which falls on ourselves as a local authority. We all know some of the reasons and the pressures on maintenance regimes as well. So I wouldn't say it's unsafe, but it's not ideal. A lot of the vegetation has gone across what looked like a 2-metre wide footway. Now, certainly any aspiration to improve that situation is valid. However, it could not be linked to this application, because our advice is that the work shown on the drawing there are related in scale and kind to this development. Going beyond that by requiring widening further north would go beyond what would be reasonable. And if it's a case of maintaining the footway to its width, that is something that just falls upon the council as a local authority anyway. So our recommendation is, as printed, that the Section 106 should include the works as you can see there. If members were concerned about the level of maintenance in the general area, that would have to be a separate resolution or message that you would send out to internally into the Highways Department. It could be something really that could fall on these applicants.
Thank you. Can I just come back quickly on that? Well, I am concerned about the remaining stretch of pathway. So I understand what you're saying, but I would ask, sort of attach this as a directive to Highways to be keeping that area clear. Councillor Rodriguez.
So I'm a substitute member, and I wasn't here at the August meeting when this application first came to the committee. So just to give you a bit of background information, if you may, can you just explain why the application is preferred for a
referred so that members could have a look at the highway situation.
Councillor Slocum and then Councillor Filmer.
I also feel the level of maintenance is very prominent to this application. I think that you can't visibly see, and there could be, with the greatest respect, everybody in every ward has got hedgerows that's overgrown into the road, and you're trying to get it done, and we haven't got the funds. So I do think it's very pertinent to have that as part of a condition. I think the ongoing maintenance, I know I'm probably saying the wrong thing, but I'm going to ask. I think that should be part of a condition, because I think it is really essential that the safety and visual amenity of this proposal is very much dependent on, having everything clear and being able to see properly.
Certainly happy to, and I completely understand the point. Just in terms of the condition has to be related to land that the applicants have control over, and because it's a highway, it's land that the applicants don't have any control over. In fact, the body that does have full control over it is the council. So we just technically could not add it as a condition. In terms of increasing the scope of works in the Section 106 agreements, it'd be a case of where would you stop, really? And our strong advice is that is absolutely on the limit of what we could link as dealing with the impacts of this development.
Chairman, could I just say that doesn't fill me respectfully with confidence, because I think it is a really important thing here, the visibility. I really do, and I think for anyone that wants an application to go through with all the areas to be dealt with, I think it's important that is part of the application. So I'm a little disappointed by that. I take your point, but it doesn't fill me with confidence.
Thank you, Chair. I too am concerned about this. I have a general question for those of us around the table. Do any of you know whether Paul enjoys the employment of a linesman? Anybody? Lensman, rather, yes. It's you, is it? So we don't know. Okay. In which case, though, although I agree entirely with Councillor Slocum, and I suspect many of you, I also agree or understand the concern from my friends to my right. I think we're going to have to just accept the fact that we can't put this in as part of a 106 or a condition because it goes beyond the remit of the development. But maybe I could make a polite suggestion to anybody that might be in the room that some work on that might be done in the near future and maintained as such. We can't deny the fact that although it may not be designed as such, we are going to get kids coming down, or people coming down generally, from the north to this new development. That can't be avoided, whether it's a legal thing or not. So a word in somebody's ear might be nice, but that's all. Thank you.
Can I move on from the culvert situation? In the report on 7.4.5, it specifically states the officer recommends culverts on West Side roadside ditch by section 106, but I cannot find it specifically in the conditions. Please prove me wrong if I am wrong.
It's in the section 106. So all the works to the highway will be included in the section 106. So I've sort of included that as the generic under conclusion 8.1, grant permission subject to a section 106 agreement covering the high road requirements, including trigger points for delivery and recommended conditions. So because it's safer legally to have 106 to deal with the highways, so that's included with the 106 rather than separate conditions. So the 106 has to be signed with those specific deliveries by all parties before development can commence.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Also, I've got one other question about conditions, and it may be the same because it's highways as well. It was paragraph 7.4.3 in the report, and it said conditions recommend to ensure the access and highway infrastructure is in place before operation demonstration of the proposed units. Can you give me, it's not down as a specific condition, but can you give me reassurance that that is in the section?
Yeah, that should say within the section 106 rather than conditions. That's a mistaken report.
Okay, thank you. Members, any other? Oh, Councillor Bell, sorry.
That's right. Yeah, from a slightly different angle, if I'm right. For me, there's two parts of this. There's the detail of the application and then the policy interpretation. And I'd just like the officers to explain a little bit more to me the interpretation policy. The reason being, and it does come back to this D15, which within the policy states that the 1,000 square meters is what triggers us to ask a developer to go to Burnham or Bridgewater or a built-up area. It doesn't, within that policy, as far as I can see, break it down and say, well, the units are smaller, that's okay. Now, we seem to be interpreting that way, and that's fine, I can live with that. But I just want to know if that is what we are now saying. So if a site comes up 2,000 square meters, but it's 20 small units, that's a small thing, so we don't need to force that to go elsewhere. So I'm just keen that we don't set ourselves a, I know there's such thing as precedent in planning, but we don't set a benchmark that others will then seek to make use of. And in a similar vein, I hear the comment being made about the speculative store that's been granted outline permission elsewhere. We could be in the situation where we grant this, the other side then comes forward and we've got theoretically 2 stores. But one would imagine the other side would then come back and say, oh, we don't need it. But that would want to trigger them to be able to get their appeal decision. So again, I'm just wanting for us to understand as a committee, if this comes up in the future, that we can say, well, if it's only an outline application, we don't really need to take that into account because it may never happen. That's not quite the way we've looked at it in the past. I'm just trying to get my head around, because from my own view, the detail of this application is good. If the applicant has been given the steer they appear to be given by our policy team, they've come up with a good design, a good layout. Actually, the high works they're doing are pretty substantial for a development of this size. So for me, the detail stuff is good. It's just I need to understand how I've got over the principle bit to start with. It doesn't set that benchmark for other developments that will suddenly come back and say, they did it there, so we should be able to do it here.
Thank you, Chair. Sarah will answer the first part of Councillor Filmer's questions, and I will answer the one related to the appeal site. Yeah, absolutely. The appeal was allowed for largely residential development, but also with a block on it that was earmarked for a retail store. I think there were about 3 parking spaces in the illustrative layout. So, and the inspector made some comments during the decision saying that it was entirely speculative, recognised that no marketing had taken place either. My reading of it was the inspector gave it very limited weight, and it was, you know, the housing elements, the connectivity in the inspector's view that swung it for the inspector. So my own reading was that the theoretical store as part of a mixed use wasn't pivotal in that inspector's decision. That's my reading of it. And also, I think the fact that it is, you know, there's no identified occupier, hasn't even been marketed, purely speculative. It has 3 parking spaces. Just trying to think of a food store in a similar situation that would work with that kind of level of car parking. Would they get an occupier? So, in theory, yes, there could be an occupier on that store. If they come in for reserve matters consent, we would have to grant it. You can't rule it out. I think it is a limited risk. I think and it's not a case of comparing, but looking at the situation with Knoll at the moment, could we end up with 2? Here, I think we have a well-designed scheme. There is more than adequate car parking and access. There is an identified occupier, but that's not absolutely set in concrete, but there's good certainty over that. So that would be my advice to the committee on how to look at the appeal scheme and the retail element.
Just with regard to policy D15, policy D15 does talk about small-scale employment development is acceptable and it's well related to settlement boundaries. Now, this is interpretation essentially of whether we're talking a small scale or large scale. I think the policy officer has considered, because these are small units, the biggest one is just over 500 square metres. So in and of themselves, they don't trigger the large scale proposals. And because it is a full application and we've got full control over the scale of development on site and the layout of it and the size of the development on site, because it's a full application, we are not going to get a large warehouse from here without needing to put another planning application in. So in that way, it doesn't set a benchmark because this is a very specific situation. And the other thing I think from the policies officer perspective was large scale proposals, and this, and I take the parish council's point, it's about 20% over 1,000 gross floor space, but to argue that in an imperial situation, given we've got a full application that shows them as very smaller units, would be a very difficult case to answer. So it's a very, given that these, as I said, if you look at the, I'll put some of the layouts in, some of the layouts are just pretty small units. I don't think, we're not setting a benchmark here, it's a very specific set of conditions that the policy officer has agreed that's in accordance with the section of D15 that talks about small scale employment. It'd be very difficult to argue that.
Councillor Bradford and Councillor Hendry.
Site visit, actually, a lot of the things have been covered. We saw that more, in particular the highways, the clearance of the vegetation outside, and the ditch and the fence that was very apparent, which had to be done. Now, really, only one thing holding us up this afternoon really is the access from there up to the corner, the road we walked afterwards. We thought that people might be coming out from maybe an imminent bigger development, or the ones that's already there. So we're going to make our minds about what we want to do. If we got it today in writing, the fact that something will be done from that area up to the Manor Road, then I got no hesitation in moving a recommendation. But failing that, I'm gonna perhaps refer to a referral until some of these things can be sorted out firsthand and come back again and everybody be sure what they're on about, and off we go. Thank you, Madam Chairman. In response to Councillor Bradford's request, which I understand, I think the committee can ask me or yourselves to write to the relevant service manager in terms of highway maintenance to stress the importance of improved maintenance for this reason. We can't, like I said, we can't connect it formally to this application, and we can't anticipate what the response would be either. So there's not going to be a guarantee today, but there is certainly an undertaking from myself to write to the relevant manager about this issue, should the committee want me to.
Thank you. Just want to Councillor Hendry, and then Councillor Sessions.
Thank you, Chair. From Councillor Bradford, that proposal already came up. Unless we get something concrete regarding that, if they can't get something concrete, then it's a proposal. Okay, fine. Thank you. Now, first of all, I was the only councillor who voted in favour of this last time round. There wasn't one vote. Right. Commercial units, access, parking. Right. We all know that. A few of the little things that haven't been mentioned that perhaps people think it's not important. Flood zone 1, Artis and flood zone 2, small attenuation point down the north side. Access from the A38 has been tweaked with quite a few bits and pieces that we all know and talked about already. About that, the highways are very professional, very technical, and extremely good at their jobs. So it's not just something like me to argue against highways. And if they say something's absolutely okay, that's good enough for me. Okay, so we just pass the highways bit. The car sales next door, absolutely nothing to do with this interest whatsoever, so they can sell 15,000 tracks from that site. That would be beneficial. Actually, the consultees are on board. There's not anything from them to say no, they're not happy about it. It's all okay. Can I just bring us to point 7.1.5? I'm not going to start with policies because we all know what they are, so let's leave that part out. Just go straight to 7.1.5. I read the first sentence where it states, whilst concerns have been raised that development could be situated in another location, each application has to be dealt with in its own merits. I've said this many times. We only deal with what's on the table in front of us here and now. It doesn't matter if somebody's put in an application to build houses, another shop down the road, left and right. Makes no job difference. We're only dealing with what is here and now on the table. Right? We could go on and on about this. You could argue this all afternoon, but we had this already. We've been through the same conversations. I've seen what's on the screen from the Case Officer. I'm happy with that first class presentation. I've listened to the public speaking and the councillors all around about me. I know that Councillor Bradford put forward for referral. I'm not happy with that at all. So if that's his decision, that's fine. I myself, I'll bring forward the Case Officer recommendation to grant full permission with conditions. That's where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. As we have got two more speakers, I'm going to take those first, and then I will go back over the proposals, recommendations that have been made. So Councillor Slocum and then Councillor Murphy, and then we will go to the proposals.
It's just a point of
Sorry, I've got Councillor Filmer. After you should tell Councillor Filmer. I do apologise, and Councillor Murphy.
I just wanted to, I'm still a little bit, when the gentleman from Pollock Parish Council spoke, they mentioned about the scheme is on the wrong side of the road, and about the visual impact. Can I just ask, has the conservation officer given any advice about the visual impact this will have from this site? I haven't had that answered, and I couldn't see anything in the report to actually ascertain whether the conservation officer has given anything.
Unfortunately, we struggle with conservation officers. The resource itself is quite limited, so there's been no conservation officer assessment on this because it's not within a conservation area or near any listed buildings. So
apologies, I may have used the wrong word. I was thinking of, say, environmental officer or somebody to give us a bit of advice on the effects of the visual impact.
We haven't really got much of landscape officers either, so there's been no landscape officer looking at the site. But I think it's well related to Paulette. If you look at go back to the site plan, it's well related to the village, and the site slopes gently downwards, as we saw on site. So, and there's no public footpaths to the north, northwest. So there's no views, there's no public views from the north looking, from the south looking back, the north looking back. So it would read as part of the village from a landscape perspective, because you've got don't forget, you've got the Elms garage next door with those large residential properties. You've got the resi properties down the bottom at North Farm, the quite substantial properties. And then across the road on the A38, you've got the gardens of substantial properties from Old Main Road. So it would be very difficult to sustain a landscape objection on that basis. And they're only developing, if you look at the design, they're only developing half the site, because originally it came in on the whole site and we got them to pull it back so that it's not going further out below the built development of and the garage next door. So you've still got an open area to the north of the site where the attenuation is, where they're putting more planting. So I think from a landscape perspective, it's very well designed. There's been a lot of tree planting. They don't often see schemes with this amount of tree planting. Thank you.
Councillor Filmer, then Councillor Murphy.
What I was going to say was, I think, according to the design that they've got for the access to the road, they're already carrying out beyond the red line of their site to improve the access to facilitate the path on the other side. I think any condition we put on has to be reasonable and proportionate. And I think we're getting to the point where we're going beyond what is reasonable and proportionate to be asking for. We can ask our officers to send a letter to some more of our officers to say, please maintain a pavement. All of us as members know what the likelihood of the response to that is going to be. So I wouldn't want to raise the public hope that suddenly just because we've written as a planning authority that they're going to suddenly get their pavement sorted, because it ain't going to happen. I would have to second Councillor Henry's proposal for granting permission, because I think what the applicants have done to address the issues of the site are as far as we could push them. As the officer has just said, in terms of landscaping and environmental works on that site with the retaining ponds and such beyond at the end of the field, it's an enhancement. I can't see why we would go for further deferral at this stage. So I will go for seconding the grant permission with the amended conditions that were highlighted that needed to be addressed.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you very much. I'm beginning to wonder if you have missed out on the right answer.
Microphone, please, for Councillor Murphy.
Hand up for a bit.
Microphone.
Switch it on at the side.
Am I on? This is a very ambitious project, and I think the developer should be congratulated for having tolerance and patience in trying to come up with the right solution. The things that I wanted to mention, and have been wanting to mention for a wee while, Gary did come up with this idea that there was adequate parking. And I would just like to remind you that after Asda in Highbridge, there isn't another convenience store all the way to Paul. This is the first one. And there is a lot of traffic on that road coming from the motorway from Edithby, who might be turning in. As I look at this site, I like this site. I love all the 146 shrubs, or whatever they are. And there are only 8 usable, I might say 8, or maybe it's 10 usable car park spaces. 10. There are no curbside car park spaces. There are no additional car park spaces, just 10. And so I would have to say that I think, you might say there's also 2 disabled spaces, should we call them. There's also 2 charging points. So there are spaces, but the designated parking spaces for people coming off this road into this convenience store, first one from Asda, from the Asda roundabout, that's in Highbridge, there's only 10. I don't think that's enough. And also, they are in an alleyway which takes trucks unloaded. So it's, again, if you just look at that, you look carefully, that is where those right in the middle where the parking spaces are. That is an alleyway for loading. The bit at the end is loading bay. So the trucks are coming in, reversing or turning around or going up that alleyway with 10 spaces, snagging the 10 spaces or not. I think from a practical point of view, I mean, by the way, this is you might consider this to be a petty thing, very petty, but it's not. It's simply not possible. I believe that will not be possible given the volume of traffic that's coming through. The second thing I'd like to say, and I am really surprised because in every co-op that we've got 2 co-ops in Burnham-on-Sea. One has 28 parking spaces. The one at Barrow, not in Burnham-on-Sea, Barrow. One in Barrow, one in Burnham. The Barrow one has 28 parking spaces. They've done their homework, and the parking there is usually very busy. It's a separate car park. It's across the road. It holds 20 car park spaces, and they have 8 at the store, in the front of the store, plus the disabled. So the point really is 28. If you go to the next one at Churchfield School, they've got 15 spaces out the front. They've got a car park at the back for another 6, and they've got the roads in the front of the streets where they can park. And they're right in the middle of what do you call them? Petting estates. So a lot of people in that case obviously go by bike and by foot. But there has to be at least 20 spaces I don't know if Mervis had developed or not. I'm not going to propose that because I think they've really tried hard, and it could be. My only final thing that I am really concerned about is what the gentleman from the town council, the parish council said, and he alluded to the road when you're coming out, your vision of what traffic is going to be coming, if you're going to go across, your vision, you've got a ghost lane, possibly with traffic turning right, and traffic inside lane turning not right, going straight past. So you're going to have to try and get across that. I believe that's a hazard. I'd like to have that noted. I think that's a hazard because I think the parish council are very concerned about the road itself. It's not a huge road, but with the traffic coming backwards and forwards, and the ghost lane, which was a good idea or seemed like a good idea, but I don't know of anything where ghost lanes where people actually cross over the ghost lane and then get into the traffic. There's nothing even down at the as the turn off down at the bottom. There's no ghost. That ghost lane is a hazard. So I'm just going to put that into people's minds. My personal feeling is there should be some. I personally would recommend a further deferral. This because I feel that this is not the I think what they've tried to do, and I salute the developer, absolutely tried hard. They've turned the building for the co-op round to try and accommodate this parking. There's also mention of other accesses, but in that particular case, you have an alleyway with 10 spaces and trucks. I beg you to think carefully before you make a final decision. That's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
Would you like to respond?
The parking proposed is in line with the Somerset parking standards. So the parking, bear in mind the co-op is 300, just over 300 square metres. So it's not big, it's not a big unit. I would disagree with calling this an alleyway. It's a proper road and they've got a turning circle at the end. Turning circle to the end, at the top. Right.
May I just, I'm not arguing, but I'm talking about this alleyway here, where the parking pieces are, and the loading bay. What's the loading bay for? Is it for goods or the loading into the back, into the front? They'll be loading on stillages, I guess. It's the same when you go into any of the other co-op, they have stillages which they store outside, trucks them up, put stuff in the stillages, take them in. So there's where the parking is right in the middle. It's not that up there, that's the trucks.
That's the tow zone at the back. But there is some room for manoeuvre down here at the bottom.
Yeah. Where?
Down here.
It's loading and unloading, and you have 10 spaces. That's it. There are no other, unless, I mean, I'd be happy to say that if phase 2 is coming on at the same time, you've got loads of parking, you know, these little nooks and crannies, but that's not the point. The point is the traffic coming up the A38 is solid. It builds up, builds up, builds up, builds up, and if that's the first store, I would say it's an excellent position for a store. Maybe not ideal from the point of view of turning in and turning out for sure. But I mean, for someone wanting to stop their car and then go on, they don't know. Maybe they don't even know there's an Asda a mile down the road. Or it's not an Asda, it's a convenience store. It's a small convenience store. And I think the others are also the 2 small convenience stores. This would be quite a vital store. Very good position. But there are no other parking spaces. It's not like you can park in the highway. You can't park anywhere in there. There's no turning in, no other turning.
Yeah, just very briefly, just as Sarah said, really, because of the floor space of the proposed food store, that number of spaces is proposed. That's the standards as to which we can insist upon. You know, so we'd be on thin ice if we were to refuse permission due to lack of car parking for the proposed food store. Yeah, the kind of potential conflict between service vehicles and parking it's there, but that's not an untypical arrangement for a food store of this size. This isn't a large food store, it's a convenience store really. So it's nothing, you know, kind of unusual. I don't think there's high risks involved with that. But obviously individual members will take their own view on that. But certainly in terms of the level of parking, it's policy compliance.
Thank you for that. I've got 3 speakers, and then I really do want us to go to voting on the proposals. So, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. Comment first. Drawing 5 of the sweat path analysis deals with a good deal of the HGV stuff, although I completely understand your point, Councillor Murphy. The request is a cheeky condition or an amendment possibly. Is there or is there not anything in our conditions as stated that stops somebody from renting all 6 of these units as one? I don't believe there is, but if there isn't, could we pop something in to say that we can't have one organisation renting all 6 units, which would bring it back in line with policy D15?
Well, I think it is in line with policy D15, although I take the point. I think we can't restrict who's renting it. What we could do is say that they should be the individual units as the floor space is proposed. Control it that way. So basically, in essence, you're restricting the floor space per unit. So the condition would list unit 1 X amount of floor space, unit 2 X amount.
And that works. I agree. But let's take the Asda example again. If Asda would say, "Oh, we need some storage outside," we'll just have those 6 units for 6 months. As a daft example. But as long as you're confident that those individual specifications would stand, that'd be fine.
We can't control who rents it. What we can control is the sizes.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Chair, before this goes to the vote, I'd like all the councillors to realise something with regard to parking makes a long discussion. The car park in Barrow for the co-op, and I live just around the corner from it, by the way, has got 7 spaces. Make no mistake about that, 7. The council car park opposite has got no play in this, nothing to do with it whatsoever. So there's a small council car park, I give you that, but it's got nothing to do with this application. So on the co-op, for co-op, there are 7 spaces. On the co-op High Bridge, I can't give an exact figure, but there's roughly 10. If that, because I'm just trying to count in my head, but there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, might even be 9. So you get 9 spaces in that co-op High Bridge and 7 in the one in Barrow. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bruce.
Thank you. I have to apologise really because I wasn't able to make the site visit, so I'm finding it quite difficult to come to a conclusion. I may even have to abstain on this in the end, but I find that the reasoning by which you decide on square metres is how many parking spaces is needed is quite absurd because they're different positions. I mean, I've got one in Woollavington, for example, it's probably got about 10 spaces, but it's not on a major road. This is on the A38 and it's going to get a lot more traffic. So is there any modelling data to say what the footfall might be? Does that not come into it at all? I mean, I hear what you're saying, and we probably don't have a way to object on that basis, but I'd like to know that I find it quite absurd that we base it solely on square meterage and not actually where it is and what the footfall is likely to be. Thank you.
The parking standards, they are, it is a 2013 document, so it will be renewed at some point too. In terms of, I can't remember the figures now because it's quite a long time ago I looked at that element of it, but they would, I think they would have done the traffic assessment and which would have had how many they expected to be through traffic and how many they expect to come to the village. And I just know that my recommendation was it was okay.
Okay, thank you. So I'm now going to proceed to the next stage, which I hope is in a logical order, given the proposals. So we have had a proposal for a deferral from
Withdraw that,
councillor.
Madam Chairman, straight away. I've analysed Councillor Gilman's remarks and I'm
Okay.
going to
Okay, right, yeah, that's withdrawn. Just before we go to, we've had a proposer for, to grant officer's recommendation. That is with the change to condition 8, and that's seconded by councillor Filmer. Councillor Martin raised the issue of individual, stipulation of individual unit sizes, which isn't currently included, but I'm understanding that it could be. Would proposer and seconder wish that
Sorry,
to
condition
be
8 and 9.
8 and 9
Yeah.
for the phasing? And regarding stipulation of individual unit sizes, where can I have advice on where that would fall? And A, the confirmation it's possible, and B, where it would fall.
Yes, it's possible, and be an additional condition setting the maximum unit size within the development, which we would take from the actual ones proposed.
Thank you. Are proposer and seconder happy with that? So, proposer and seconder to grant recommendation with the additional condition and changes to condition 8 and 9 regarding phasing. All those in favour, please show. Nine in favour, any against? None against, any abstentions? And we've got 2 abstentions, so that is carried. Thank you, members. I'll just give 5 minutes because that was a bit of a heavy debate. 3:15 and we start again. We will start the meeting. Next on the agenda is item 6, which is the application farm Blakeway. However, officers have advised that in preparing for the committee, there is further missing information from the report, and as such, members are invited to agree further deferral of this item to ensure accurate and clear details are both included within the report and the officer presentation to allow the application be determined in accordance and with due process. Therefore, I would ask members to vote to defer this item from consideration at today's meeting. I would be very unhappy to proceed with that information. So can I propose that is deferred?
Yeah, we'll
Thank you. Everyone in favour? Thank you very much, members. So that brings us next to item 7, which is the application for Oak Tree Farm, Bristol Road, Petersmead. Councillor Filmer will be speaking on this and has left the committee table accordingly. So, can I ask officer to make a presentation, please? Liam, thank you.
Chair. This application relates to a site to the north of Isleport in Mead. The application site is part of the Isleport 2 allocation, which was supported by an SPD to develop this area of land for further commercial and industrial uses. The application before you today is for a minor scheme for the formation of a single-storey coffee shop with a drive-through capability located off the estate road that's been constructed currently in the estate as it's being built up at the moment. So a bit of background, this application site is adjacent to 2 large units. One is occupied by Toolstation, I think the other one is Screwfix. Further north off this plan we have a McDonald's and a Greggs that are also one has been completed and is occupied, the other one is currently under construction further north towards the access. So the application itself is for a single-storey building, will contain a coffee shop with and will be supported by 20 car parking spaces to the north of the building. The drive-through access will be around the building here, nexting onto the existing estate road. There's another unit on the opposite side of the estate road here, I'll show you some photographs to give you an idea of the context as it is today. So this is the floor plan of the proposed units. They say it's a minor scale development, it's about 178 square metres, I'm all told, and it will have access both for people visiting the coffee shop to on foot, in the car, or through the drive-through facility. These are the external the external elevations of the building. I don't know if you can quite make that out, but we have anthracite render on this section of the building here, with timber cladding on the other elements here. So fairly similar to the one, I don't know if you're familiar with the one that's on the junction 23 Dunmore roundabout, but there's one that's been recently constructed there, like that development. So similar appearance. And again, this is sort of more version of those elevations, but as you can see, I've got the logo here, and in timber against the dark backdrop of the rendered elevations as well. These are some 3D mock-ups of what the building will look like. There's an external canopy around the edge of the building, providing some shelter to people who want to sit outside. This is the drive-through canopy, which will shield the booth where the orders will take it. So in terms of the photographs we have, this is the existing units to the north-east of the building. So the site itself is located in this area here, with the A38 just in the backdrop there, which leads down to the roundabout, which also serves as access to the existing Harport development, which also has an Aldi supermarket. Sorry, so Howden's located here. So so we have the large unit here, and the Starbucks coffee shop will be located in this area here. So it'll continue the sort of linear fashion of units alongside the A38 as it is now. This is a view looking back towards the south, just to give you a bit of a backdrop to the site itself as it is now. So you have the sort of the hotel located here, and I believe that might be the supermarket. I'm not quite sure, but again, this is just sort of looking south towards the area of Alport, which gives you an idea of where we are in terms of the development of the overall site and the surrounding area. It's quite a busy development site at the moment, with, like I say, a number of units being occupied already and operating. The estate road here will act as the access into the site as it extends further south, and then as you approach the A38, you'll turn left onto the main road there. And this is a view taken from the southwestern side, looking back from the edge of the A38 on your left here, and this is the site in here. So in terms of the application itself, we've received no objections from many of the statutory consultees, including the parish council, who support the application. The principle of development is considered to be acceptable, as it is a use that will support the existing operations of the commercial site through the sort of supplementary use that it will provide, as many other uses have been allocated on these developments. And in terms of the size and scale, it's not going to have a significant impact visually on the surrounding area. The existing landscaping that you can see will provide some screening for wider views, but in terms of the context of the site itself, it's not considered the commercial nature of the design, and will have any significant impact on the character of the estate itself. As the scale of development is fairly minor, there will be no impact on residential amenity through overshadowing and loss of light, given that the nearest residential property is on the opposite side of A38. In terms of flood risk, we have had some negotiations with the Internal Drainage Board, who've sought some design details with regards to the means of drainage from the development. These have been sought and been confirmed by the IDB as being acceptable. It will provide some buffers to the existing watercourse that surrounds the site, which I think you can just make out here. And the development itself will be subject to surface water drainage designs that will be based on sustainable methods. In terms of updating the report, the report itself has got 9 conditions. In the report, it does allude to the fact that we may be looking to remove condition 9 of the report based on further information being provided by the applicant. I can confirm this can be withdrawn from the conditions that are on the report, as the IDB have confirmed that their satisfaction with the details that were provided in respect of the basin outlet design. And they have confirmed that this would be something that they would pick up at the land drainage consent stage of of the proposal. So the matter that's brought the application before you today is the National Highways stance on the planning application. They've requested that a holding recommendation be placed on the application for the duration of the application has been with us, based on the fact that they would like to fully assess the highways impacts and provide some modelling data or modelling assessment for the data that's been provided by the applicants to see what the exact impact of the development will be on the existing motorway in respect of potential queuing of traffic coming off the motorway. The applicants, in respect of this, did provide a technical note on the highway side of things, which concluded that in the grand scheme of the existing use of the Edithmead roundabout, that the development itself would equate to a 0.82% and 0.97% increase in the amount of traffic, respective of the existing peaks that occur during the travel periods that the National Highways have observed. So, in a non-technical way, I think we can conclude as a planning department that the development itself will not result in a significant impact on highways movements, and that it should be assimilated into the existing highway network without significant impact on its function. So, with that in mind, the recommendation is to grant consent, but that'll be subject to referral to the Secretary of State. And if it's agreed with them, it will be subject to conditions at the end of the report. But the application is recommended for approval, subject to referral to the Secretary of State, unless National Highways themselves confirm that they no longer have a holding recommendation against the application in respect to the data that's been provided regarding transport movements generated by the proposed coffee shop. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam. I've got one speaker on this item, and that is Councillor Filmer. If you'd like to come to the table. 3 minutes, or when you wish to start, thanks.
Thank you very much. Members, this application before you today, I'm here to speak in support of the recommendation of Mr. Evans and also to support the application itself. You will have seen from your papers and the report you just had, this is allocated land which we have within our local plan for this sort of development. It is using an existing access off the A38 which has been created already. It's bringing inward investment into our area, and it's a national operator that wants to come in and carry out works in our patch. Now, you'll see from your report that this has sat with our authority since February of this year for a coffee shop, as being referred to as a minor application. National Highways are the body that has been holding this up, and I know that our authority has been trying to work with National Highways to get them to be reasonable on this. You've heard the statistics, less than a 1% increase in use of the roundabout that's concerned, and within the papers, I think the figure shows it's 1 vehicle every 6 minutes in addition on the Edithmead roundabout. For any of you who know Edithmead roundabout, there are an awful lot of vehicles that use that. 1 extra vehicle per every 6 minutes is not going to make a major difference to that site. There is an existing major route network scheme that is coming through to completely enhance that area and improve things. That's government funded, and National Highways should be well aware of that, and actually they should be part of the people pushing to get it actually sorted rather than holding up investment into Somerset. As I said, it will have no significant impact on the highway. It helps support economic growth, which is again something that we want to see in our patch. I would ask members of this committee to support the recommendation from Mr. Evans, and if that involves contacting the Secretary of State, so be it, but we need to get something to put a bit of rocket underneath National Highways and get a decision on this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Bolt, then Councillor Slocum. Oh, sorry, was councillor Bradford first? Sorry, thank you. Councillor Bradford, councillor Bolt, councillor Slocum, thank you.
And we got one of these at North Petherton, just off junction 24. It's almost a remodel and exactly the same thing. And I think National Highway should take a look at that one so know that works. Right. So no hesitation in moving the recommendation.
Issue of various developments up in that area. That road, the roundabout is supposed to be having its enhancements for some time, and we weren't able to put any restrictions that they wanted, which was nobody could move into any of the houses until that was done. So I can't see that we can do anything other than support this one. So I happily second the recommendation.
Thank you, councillor Slocum.
I was going to second the recommendation, but it wasn't first, but never mind. Can I just say I'd like to thank Councillor Filmer along with the officers for obviously really detailed information here, and also the information that Councillor Filmer has given us, which has given us all confidence. So thank you very much.
It's been a bizarre situation, but if there are no more speakers, we will go to the vote. So we have a proposer, councillor Bradford, seconder, councillor Bolt, to agree the officer's recommendation to grant permission. All in favour, please show. I think that's unanimous. Okay, thank you, members. Somebody get councillor Filmer back. You want me to? They kept telling us, tell me they would be.
No, it's once it's chapter 21.
I've just been advised by officers that I should make it clear that was with the deletion of condition 9.
Yes.
Is everybody happy with that? Thank you. Okay, we will now go on to agenda item 8, which is the application for 4 Portland Road, North Petherton. And Freya will be taking us through this application.
Thank you, Chair. This application is for the erection of a two-storey side extension to the southwest elevation on site of the existing garage to be demolished, and the erection of a single-storey front, south-east and rear northwest extension on site of the existing porch and conservatory also to be demolished. This application is before the committee due to parish council comments being contrary to officer recommendation and concerns over the intended use of the proposal. The main considerations for this application are D2, D12, D14 and D25. The site is located in the parish of North Petherton and is accessed off of Portman Road. Here you can see the location plan currently, shows the existing dwelling and the garage. This is the proposed block plan showing the proposed extensions to the front and rear and side. This is the existing set of elevations. This is the existing floor and roof plans. This is the proposed elevations and the proposed floor and roof plans. This shows the front elevation. As you can see, the existing garage, this is to be demolished. Another view of the front elevation. And a few other views to try and show the side elevations of the proposal. Then we have the rear elevation, which the conservatory is to be demolished. And again, some more views of the rear elevation. The main considerations would be the principle. So the principle of a residential annex in this setting is seen as acceptable and we would say that this would comply with policy D12 of the local plan. In regard to visual amenity, this would be seen to be an appropriate scale, design and detailing to respect the local area. It is proposed to be built in matching materials to the existing and would not be considered overdevelopment of the size of, due to the size of the plot. In regard to residential amenity, it would not prejudice the amenities of the occupier or the neighbours due to the limited projection from the rear. And in respect of the amenity of future occupiers, there is natural light in the proposed extensions and there is adequately sized accommodation. So it would again not be seen to prejudice the amenities of them. In regards to highway safety, the parish council have objected to this application in regard to the lack of parking and potential loss of parking. Highways have commented standing advice as long as there is no parking lost. Currently, this is a 3-bedroom dwelling with 2 available off-road parking spaces, and the proposal is to increase this by 1 bedroom to create a 4-bedroom dwelling with 2 available parking spaces. The current garage is not a viable parking space, and this would not be lost due to the proposal. So the parking strategy is optimum and recommended levels, and this would set out that there would need to be 3 available off-road parking spaces. However, due to this being a Tier 1 settlement with off-road parking in the vicinity and access to public transport, it would be seen to comply with standing advice and would be seen as acceptable. In regard to the public right-of-way that runs along the back of the site, they would not be seen to have an effect on this due to the application. So therefore, the officer recommendation is to grant planning permission subject to conditions, and this would be to condition the annex to be ancillary to the main dwelling house. Thank you.
Thank you, Freya. There are no speakers on this application. So Councillor Slocum, then Councillor Bradford.
Oh, we got it right this time. I'd like to ask a question, please, and then I will refer to the water there before I like to whatever he wants to do, because I think that's only right. Could you just confirm, if I may, if there will only be 1 door? I ask this because I like the idea of these side extensions. I think I can see why people want to do it, but sometimes they become separated with their own front door, and then you find out afterwards that it's actually a separate dwelling. I'd just like to have that confirmed, please.
There are 2 doors, so 2 separate entrances, but there wouldn't be a distinction of the curtilage. So the parking area would be kept together and the house would still be used by 1 family unit. So it'd still be used together.
Could I ask why there is another front door? Why there would be another door? Is that for safety or is that?
I think it's just their preference, as it's 1 family unit living together, but to not always be together. I think that is the only reason why. The condition that's been added on also stops it becoming 2 dwellings. It can only be used as ancillary to the main dwelling.
Oh, thank you very much. That's super. Thank you.
Councillor Bradford.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I know this place. Portman Storage opposite of this, and I used to supply Portman Storage for 30 years with potatoes and veg, so I knew this place quite well. And when I heard that North Petherton Town Council were coming in to speak on planning today, actually they were too late with their the chap came, they had to go home. It was great shame, but it shouldn't really happen, but there it is, right? I did go and look at the site actually on Saturday afternoon, and when I heard this and got a bit of clarification, and any car parking issues, that bit of green you saw in front of the house, you put the picture up again, that's going to be cleared, and that's going to be used for parking. The owner.
I don't have that information currently.
And I didn't need you, did I? That's why the council.
No.
That's why the county was objecting. That's why I went to see him to get it straight. And as far as I'm concerned, I'll take his word for what he said. What he said to me. So that's a condition. That's for car parking there. Then no issues at all. Then none whatsoever.
We don't have that currently conditioned to be used for car parking. We are satisfied with the parking.
Right. So that makes the difference, then. Yeah. Right.
The current grey area would be the parking area. So here where you can see the car.
I think really we have to take what we see before us and what information you have.
Okay.
Um,
I'm gonna move the recommendation, Madam Chairman, anyhow, okay?
okay, thank you, that is noted. Councillor Slocum and Councillor Filmer. I would just like to say, I would like to thank the officers. I think some of these photographs are really well done. They really give you a good look. You don't even have to visit because they are excellent and they've been really good today, and thank you very, very much. And this gave us a complete idea of what was happening, so very, very pleasing, and I'm very happy to second the recommendation. Thank you, yeah, I'd second that, it's very clear.
Katie Place, North Heather.
Okay.
Has it North Newton?
Councillor Filmer. Okay, so we have a proposer and a seconder to agree the officer's recommendation with the additional condition that the extension is ancillary to the main dwelling.
That condition is on the report.
Oh,
That
sorry.
is, yeah, that's already on there.
I'm sorry. Okay, so all those in favour, please show. That is unanimous. Thank you, members. Thank you, Freya. Well, that takes us on to the final application for this afternoon, and that's agenda item 9 on page 77, which is Beggars Roost Stand, Wedmore. And Minnie will be presenting for this one, I think.
I knew that. Someone else got it. All press this way.
Hello, you can hear me? Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So this is the application at Beggars Roost in Sand, Wedmore, for the conversion of an office storage building to form a dwelling, including the erection of a single-storey wraparound extension on site of the existing lean-tos to be demolished. So since the publication of the report, we have received another comment from a third party. It's a third party who has already objected to the scheme. And the latest comment refers to potential disruption to be caused from this if the consent were to be granted in respect of noise and light spill generation, impact on ecology, and I'm just relaying the planning considerations that are within this letter. And yes, general impact on neighbouring property from cars going to and from this building if it were to be granted. So the application is before members as the officer's recommendation is contrary to the view of the parish council. The parish council are objecting to this application as they consider it to conflict with policy CO1. Okay, so this is the list of the policies within the local plan that are relevant to this application. Wedmore also benefits from a neighbourhood plan, and these are the policies from that which are applicable. So the application site is within the hamlet of Sand, which is within the parish boundary of Wedmore. And as you can see, there are residential properties to the north. This property here is a listed building. It's a grade 2, is it 2-star or 2? I think it's grade 2, but sorry, I should have made a note of this, shouldn't I? Grade 2, yes, so it's a grade 2 listed building. So the application relates to the existing detached 2-storey outbuilding that currently accommodates storage and a home office, which is used in connection with the property currently known as Beggars Roost, which is indicated by the blue arrow. So the red line also denotes the access that would be used if consent were to be granted. So this is the site plan. So as you can see, on the left, you have the existing site plan. There is an existing wraparound lean-to already. There was a drawing error which has since been corrected in terms of the existing drawings, and you can see it clearer on the next slide that I'm going to show you. But the proposal also includes a wraparound extension and the creation of this sort of parking area over here. So these are the existing floor plan and elevation drawings. So as you can see, as I was talking about, there's this lean-to to the side, which also sort of goes round to the rear. It's a bit ad hoc, and you'll see in my photos shortly what it exactly looks like. And these are the drawings of the proposal. So it is a conversion. There's no other alterations proposed other than the erection of this wraparound extension, which would be on the site of the lean-to that are currently there. The extension is proposed to be finished with timber cladding and double Roman roof tiles to match the existing building. And as we can see from the proposed floor plans, the dwelling is proposed to be a 2-bed, 2-storey property. Sorry, just bear with us, the photos are missing. Yeah. Sorry, bear with us. Yeah, if you send it. Yeah. Okay, apologies for this. We're going to have to do it slightly. Oh. Okay, so this is a photo of the rear elevation. So the you can see the lean-to to the rear that provides sort of storage at the moment, sort of logs. This is the front elevation of the building. So the solar panels are already on the property, and you can see there the lean-to on the side, which is also to be replaced. So the existing lean-to is finished, sorry, with timber cladding. And again, another view of the front. So this is a view of the east elevation, effectively stood where the sort of parking area is to be created. And this is a view down along the access track as you approach the site. And this is a view, so it's an existing vehicular access, which would serve the proposed property. And this is a view of the west elevation. Apologies, these photos are they're not in a good order because this is just the photo dump from after being on site. Okay, so those are the photos. Right, we will revert to normal service now. Okay, so the first issue is the matter of the principle of the development. So the policy CO1 talks about the proposals in the countryside. There has to be a specific locational requirement. It also refers to the rural building conversion guidance note, and that sets out that conversions can be supported providing they're done in a sympathetic manner that retains a lot of the original fabric of the existing building. It's also worth noting that paragraph 84 of the NPPF sets out that whilst isolated homes in the countryside should be avoided, there are special circumstances where it can be acceptable. For example, the reuse of redundant or disused buildings, and to enhance the immediate setting. The existing buildings being previously used as partial agricultural storage and partial domestic ancillary accommodation. A structural report has been submitted that concludes that the building is capable of conversion, and as seen from the proposed drawings, the interventions required for this conversion are considered to be of a size and scale that is appropriate and sympathetic. The principle, therefore, is considered to be supported and compliant with policy CO1. Then moving on to sort of impacts to do with visual amenity and the historic environment. So a grade 2 listed building is sited approximately 160 metres east of the application site. It's considered that due to this distance, that the proposal would not have a detrimental impact or harm on the setting of this protected asset. Considering the site itself, the proposed extensions are of a size and scale that are sympathetic to the character of the building, and the use of traditional materials as well, which is considered to be appropriate choice for this site. In respect of impact on residential amenity, the nearest residential dwelling is approximately 30 metres from the site, and therefore it is not considered that the proposal would result in an unacceptable impact in respect of overlooking, overshadowing or overdominance. Considering the amenities of future occupiers, the proposed dwelling is considered to be served by adequate natural light levels to all habitable rooms, and the proposed accommodation complies with national space standards. Moving on to highway safety, the Highways Authority have referred the proposal to standing advice. The proposed development is considered to comply with this due to adequate off-road parking provision and a suitable safe connection onto the highway network. We then move on to ecology. So the application site is within the nutrient catchment area for the Somerset Levels and Moors Ramsar, and the scheme includes the creation of a new dwelling. In respect of the potential phosphates impact, an HRA has been undertaken by the county ecologists, and Natural England agree with the assessment conclusions, providing that all of the mitigation measures proposed are appropriately secured. The mitigation measures set out within the HRA include the upgrade of the existing septic tank at the main house of Beggars Roost, and this is proposed to set out that it would achieve nutrient neutrality, and appropriate conditions are recommended to secure this mitigation prior to the first occupation of the proposed development. Considering other potential ecology impacts, an ecology report accompanied the application submission. The county ecologist has recommended appropriate conditions to secure biodiversity enhancement and mitigation measures. It's therefore the officer's recommendation that planning permission is granted with conditions to secure the PTP upgrade, biodiversity enhancements, mitigation measures, the use of clay roof tiles, and ensuring that the parking area is kept for parking and clear obstruction. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 3 speakers on this application, and I'd like to call Fletcher Robinson, please, to the table.
So can I just
Yeah.
this on?
The button at the top? Just the one at the top. The switch on, that's it. And is the timer set? Yeah.
Before we start the timer, may I just explain that I'm speaking on behalf of CPRE Somerset. I'm the planner of CPRE, and trustees have asked me to come speak.
Yes.
Thank you. Our concern is that an important grade 2 Georgian listed house is just 150 yards away, as you have heard, from the site, and it's in full view of the site. There's a statutory duty on Somerset Council to have special regard to the conservation of heritage assets and their settings. The officer having referred to Section 66 of the Planning Listed Buildings Act 1990. The officer says that 150 yards, 160 yards away is too far to have an impact, but in law there's no arbitrary cut-off measured in yards. The definition of setting in the NPPF is that setting is defined as, quote, the surroundings in which an asset is experienced. The applicant hasn't been asked to submit a heritage statement. Of course, no conservation officer has been consulted. So that means if an approval were to be challenged in law, the council won't be able to show that it's had special regard to conserving the setting of the house. There's a well-established checklist supplied by Historic England. The statement has to describe the attributes of the development and the way they could potentially impact the listed house. For example, the headings include dominance, prominence, conspicuousness, and the introduction of movement and activity, and light effects and light spill, for example, including from headlights, and impacts from new access arrangements. In this case, the red line area is proposing the upgrading of the rough track to be the new access. The new access faces the house directly for a good length of it, so car headlights will light up the side elevation of the listed house. So lastly, what's to be done by the committee? We suggest two options. One, defer the application pending production of a heritage statement which properly assesses the potential impacts. Or two, we understand that the main concern of a listed house owner is the car headlights issue. Therefore, if you decide today to follow the officer's recommendation to approve, it will likely save further time and costs for all parties if you were to include a condition, a standard condition, that the new access should be landscaped in order to reduce potential light spillage from car headlights impacting the adjacent Grade 2 listed property. Thank you.
Thank you. You've raised some issues and we'll follow those up at the end of the public speaking time. Thank you. I'd next like to call Nick Baker, please. Three minutes. Just let us know when you'd like to start.
I might press the button. Forgive me, I'm not very good.
That's all right.
The dear one. So how do I start?
Yes, right, because I'm ready. I'm just start. You're ready. No, you've switched it off now. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the committee, for giving me the opportunity to address you. I did write on May the 23rd on this matter, and I've heard nothing since, or not been consulted in any way. So to actually have the opportunity to put what I see as an obvious case is most welcome. So thank you. And while I understand the merit of repositioning a building, what I would respectfully point out this has already happened. This was a barn, an animal hay barn, and lodging for animals, which is now being used as a private business office. So the repurposing argument, yes, I understand that. It makes lots of sense, but it's already happened once. How far do we keep going down that road? The current scheme has basically no support in the area and is, of course, opposed by the parish council. The current scheme, we would argue, is contrary to policy D2. It doesn't respect the amenity of nearby buildings, notwithstanding the point you're making of 160 metres from the proposed building to the house. The main issue is the access road which is going to be created. At its nearest point is only 20 feet from my boundary. So the noise of engines and lights will clearly cause us a loss of amenity, therefore in contravention to policy D25. And of course, D24, light pollution is unavoidable because the current use as an office is used during the day, whereas residential comings and goings will happen all during the day and of course the evening. And my understanding is as an Airbnb, there will be no control over people coming and going. And the large red scar runs next to a conservation area and my driveway, and is basically a farm track over virgin meadow, and is very rarely used, and usually by farm vehicles. I wouldn't put a number on how many times a year, but very, very rarely. So then to make it the excuse for residential access is, I think, nonsense. Of course, this could all be avoided by there is an access road to Beggar's Roost on the other side, which is already a tarmac drive surrounded by wooden fencing to screen off any additional noise and light from other residents. So I can't understand why we need to drive up a Somerset Meadow when there's an existing use. Clearly, the environment doesn't have a voice. You've seen our security guards, and this was taken on Thursday morning when actually animals came out to stand on the very site. It's an area of special scientific interest, a conservation area, It is an area of outstanding natural beauty and directly abuts a Grade 2 listed house. Now, other than wanting to build Starbucks on Stonehenge or shall we say a travel lodge on Glastonbury Tor, I can't think of a location less suitable for residential development in all of our lovely county of Somerset. It's really is inappropriate. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, well timed, thank you. Next, final speaker, David Bennett, please. And you have 3 minutes from when you're ready to start. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, I'm ready to start. Good afternoon, committee members. My name is David Bennett. I'm the applicant for the application of Beggars Roost for this proposal. We're proposing to we're seeking to convert an attractive stone barn in our orchard into a 2-bedroom dwelling, which has been, as has already been said, has been recently been used for a number of purposes, including as my office for a number of years. The purpose of this conversion is for my wife and myself to downsize, and also for us to sort of future-proof for ourselves and provide a future-proof place for us to live as we become older. It is also so that we can stay in the hamlet of Sand, where my wife's family have lived and farmed for 4 generations, and where our support network of family and friends lies at the moment. Converting our existing barn, which has electricity, it has water, it has an access track, is the most sustainable and least intrusive form of development in the countryside because the building's already there. We're committed to ensuring the enhancement of this beautiful building and the orchard in which it's sited in accordance with the requirements of the NPPF. And we will achieve this through careful and considered design. We also wish to highlight that our proposal will use Wedmore builders and tradespeople, thus putting money back in the local economy. The objection from the parish council does not recognise the national planning policy support for rural conversions such as ours. Our proposal is directly in line with the NPPF, which supports homes in the countryside which reuse redundant or disused buildings and enhance their immediate surroundings. We're very pleased that the planning officer, the case officer, supports our application, and we hope very much that you concur as well. I think the strength of opinion in relation to Sand House is a lot of representation in relation to a very small item for which a larger number of people in much closer circumstances, some as close as 30 metres, have raised an objection. Thank you.
Thank you. Officers, would you like to respond to those sort of heritage aspects there and light pollution, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I've just made a few notes. Please let me know if I've missed anything. In terms of the heritage statement, so it is a validation requirement if the application is considered to impact the setting of a listed building. In this instance, because of the distance, it's not considered to be read in the same same viewing of the property, I suppose, if you want to word it that way. In terms of light spill and headlights, this is only proposing a 2-bed property. The number of traffic movements up and down that track are not going to be significant. Headlights would be fleeting as people pass the property to the east. In terms of ecology, so the ecologist has been consulted. They're not objecting. They've recommended conditions in terms of mitigation and enhancements. One of the speakers stated that the site is within a SSSI, a conservation area, and an AONB. Unfortunately, it isn't within any of those designations. So just to clarify that matter, I think I covered everything unless there was anything further.
Thank you. Members, councillor Slocum, councillor Bolt. Am I right, because the vice chairman is his ward, so are you happy for me to speak?
I am, absolutely, yes.
Sure, thank you, right, yeah. Just three questions really I wanted to ask, and then I reserve the right to come back if I may, Madam Chairman. My first question is this the old-fashioned infill that we used to have? It's not.
No, so this isn't relying on CO2, which would be the infill policy. This is just relying on the fact that it's a conversion of a rural building.
Okay, thank you. And my second, if I may, Madam Chairman, is I would like to know who owns the orchard, because it seems to be, it's not necessarily the house and the conversion, it seems to be the access route and the egress route that's causing the problem. And I just wondered whether, as a compromise, if that is indeed the problem, then is there not, would it be feasible to have the access on egress on the other side, which it says the speaker said it was available. Just wondered if that was an option, because it seems to be that bit that's causing the problem. But indeed, if the land belongs to Beggar's Roost, then obviously that's important that I know that. Does that make any sense? Sorry if it's a bit,
Yeah, no, I understand. I don't have the blue line plan within the presentation, unfortunately, but I think what I would say is this is the proposal that's been put forward to us. And I cannot think of a planning reason why we can't have this access that is currently proposed. That would be my view.
Yeah. And does the orchard belong to the applicant? That's what I needed to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need to double check with the location plan, but
Councillor Bolt.
Thank you. What I'm looking at, and I think how you've explained it, is the fact that this is an existing building. It's going to look like identical afterwards, except it'll be a two-bed dwelling. Yes.
So sorry, we've just got the location. Just going back quickly to Councillor Slocum's comment. Sorry, it's not clear from the plan whether or not the orchard is owned by the applicant. In terms, sorry, Councillor Bolt, you were saying what is it exactly is proposed. So these are the existing drawings. Hang on, sorry. Technology is not my friend today. Okay, just bear with me. Hopefully, we'll.
I think I just help answer in the meantime. So it is a conversion, so it's largely going to look very similar. It won't look identical. Do you want to
Yeah,
explain?
thank you, Gary. So this is the existing, and then come on, the proposed. So the main difference is that the existing lean-tos are going to be replaced by this wraparound, which is also to be finished in timber cladding and clay roof tiles.
So we're not talking about raised roof lines or
No.
anything else.
No.
And it's basically on the same footprint.
Yes. Yeah.
So the main contention is the road coming in. Is that conditionable?
So the parish council objected because they didn't agree with the principle of the development. In terms of the road coming in, you would have to. What exactly would you want to condition? I think it would be my question.
Whether or not it can be the condition regarding screening, or landscaping, whether it be fencing or other way.
I would say from my perspective that I do not consider the impact to be so significant to warrant a condition. You know, there's always that test, isn't there? Is this going to be a reasonable condition? There's talk about headlights and cars going past, but this is only proposed to be a two-bed dwelling. How much traffic movement there would be, the headlights would be fairly fleeting, would be my comments on that.
Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Me?
Yes, I thought you.
I don't want to say anything. No.
In that case, we'll move to councillor Hentry.
Thank you, Chair. There's an awful lot to speak here about the car headlights and screening, etc. The case officer herself has pointed out without correction, without doubt, that because it's only a two-bedroom property, given that, even if you had it, just let's say one movement of a car every 2 hours, which is unlikely anyway, is that really such a horrible thing? We're not talking about stream of cars or lorries going back and forth, even tractors. We're only talking about a two-bedroom property. I personally don't see a problem with this at all. You can wrap the whole thing up in one go. On the back of everything I've seen so far, when I've listened to everybody, I'm happy to bring the officer's recommendation forward to the Land Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bruce.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to check, are we leaving ourselves open a bit in terms of, there's mention of the Heritage Officer hasn't actually been consulted on this. Our opinion is that it's not going to have an effect on the Grade 2 listed building, but if it were to go to appeal, is that going to be an issue for us that we haven't had expert consultation on that factor?
If it only get to appeal if permission was refused, if permission was granted today by the committee, then theoretically, if you don't consider a material planning consideration, then it could be legally unsound. However, the case officer has explained the location of the listed building, the fact it's Grade 2, distance away from the property, and also her assessment that it does not harm the setting of that heritage asset. So that's our officer advice to the committee. So that means that we have properly considered that issue. Sometimes you have to use your judgment as to who you consult. So if the building itself was listed or it was adjacent to a listed building, then that probably would warrant more of a expert view on the impact on a heritage asset. But planning officers are quite capable of kind of coming to their own view on that if they are confident in doing so. So we wouldn't be exposed by not having a specific conservation comment on this application, as long as we've had regard to that in our advice to you, and as long as the committee have regard to that advice in whatever decision you make.
Councillor Slocum. Sorry, I just wanted to ask a question. Is it possible to have a condition, or is it there? Because I'm trying, so sorry, I've tried to look. Whether we can condition this, it will only be one building on that land. It's a 2 bedrooms going to be. What I think is always worrying when somebody converts something and they improve it, of course, but the worry is that maybe there'll be more there. It is a condition that there'll only be this one property on there with that one access route.
As in, if they would create an additional dwelling, they would have to apply for planning permission for that.
I see. So we can't condition it that they could only have one. That's not.
No, it's not reasonable. Yeah.
No, sorry, I'm not reasonable. You know that.
It's okay.
So we have had a proposal for to grant permission as per the officer's recommendation. Councillor Bolt.
Second that.
And that
Second that.
has now been seconded. All those in favour, please show. Is not unanimous, sorry. It's all but one, and against, and abstentions. 1 abstention. Okay, thank you, members. That brings us to the end of the applications, and we've just got the final item on the agenda, which is appeal reports.
Thank you, Chair. I can be really brief on that. This time around, we're just reporting on one new appeal received since the last meeting. And as set out in the papers there, it's an appeal against a refusal of permission that was issued under delegated powers at Westham in Wedmore. And the application was for outline permission for one self-built dwelling. That appeal will run its course, and we'll update the committee on the decision when that happens.
Okay. Thank you. Any comments? No comments about that. So that brings us to the end of the meeting. Councillor Bradford.
Just a short statement, actually. I got here early today and I walked into the planning room down the bottom there, and the place was full and buzzing. And it was a real joy to see, working as a team and how important it is all be working together in those offices. It was a real joy. I know what things were like now. We've gone down there a little bit, walking and seeing 2 people, but that place was full this morning. They were all having a laugh and everything good. I think that's positive way forward.
Thank you for those.
Can I just raise a question to do with the report? It was only that the new template is got, it lists members for whether they've made comments or not. Now, for those of us who are on the committee, most of us don't make comments because we're on the committee, and just simply saying councillor didn't comment can imply to those reading that report that we're just not bothered. I think would be helpful for us, certainly, just if something to be put on there to make a reference to the fact that that's probably why we haven't done it.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. That's possible?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, thank you.
look at the committee report templates anyway, but that's a really good one.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, there are no other comments. I declare the meeting closed. Thank you for attending.